Hey guys, I had this wonderful opportunity to interview Dr. Jennifer May, who has this incredibly insightful YouTube channel on how you could improve your own mental well-being using dialectical behavioral therapy. And this interview, she talks a bit about her background and how you could use dialectical behavioral therapy in your own life. Come check it out.
Hi, everybody. I have a really wonderful guest here on the show. Her name is Dr. Jennifer May, and I learned about her because I watched her incredible YouTube videos, and I found them to be really, really clear and very practical. And when I'm listening to them, I always feel very relaxed. So I'm
Oh,
happy. So I reached out to her. So it's great to have you on.
thanks so much, Leon. It's great to meet you as well. And I've been watching Leon's videos and appreciate his work too. So thank you so much. Nice to be invited.
Absolutely. So, Jennifer, when I see your videos, a lot of the videos are on basically a therapy that a lot of psychotherapists do use, which is called DBT,
Mhm.
and it's a very effective form of therapy. So, what do you find? What really resonated? How did DBT resonate with you?
Well, it was 2001 and I was a psychology extern and I was working at what they called at the time, Zucker Hillside Hospital, which I think now is just Zucker. And then
Mhm.
we were at Schneider's, which is now Cohen's Children's Hospital, and they had a DBT program. So I was, given the opportunity to train there. So I trained with a couple of people who were behavior tech trainers, and behavior tech is the main, um, you know, hub of DBT, dialectical behavior therapy.
Hmm.
So that was my first exposure, and I learned as a student. I co-led groups with people. I worked with adolescents and their parents, and with adults, and did individual therapy, group therapy, and I really liked it. I liked, the integration of mindfulness a lot,
Mhm.
the variety of skills. And Marsha Linehan always says she didn't make it up. She really just repackaged existing things in just a really helpful way. So she has all these acronyms and groups the skills together, and has just a great approach to patients too. That's very empathic, very validating, very benevolent. So instead of being very judgmental and stigmatizing, like, she really allows us to have a much more accepting and open view of some very challenging patients.
Yes.
I really like that mindset as well, in addition to the skills, because it's not just, do this, do this, do this. It's like kind of like an attitude you take with you when you're working with people. And
Yeah.
the work, I really saw myself how people benefit, like all kinds of people. Like, since then, I did DBT at Creedmoor Psychiatric Center. I'm based in New York, by the way, and I run the program at Pilgrim Psychiatric Center, and I've been there since 2004. So I've worked with all kinds of people with DBT and DBTS for substance abuse, and people really start to get it, like, and even like these tough guys, like people who are like, yeah, man, you just got to validate them, all right? Just acceptance, like they're really into it. So it's cool.
Yeah, so what yeah, this is great. So from your firsthand experience, you met the person teaching these DBT skills, and
Yeah,
and she really has embodied the message, and you really saw the
that's right.
effect firsthand.
That's right. Absolutely. You got to really believe it. You can't just like phone it in. Because one of the things I really like about borderline clients is that they're very real. They're right with you. They're not phony. They'll call you on your BS. They're very in tune with you. And if they just get the emotion regulation better, they could be super sensitive, cool, friendly, nice people. It's just they
Yeah.
got to find a way to modulate it.
Yes, that's really great. So I was wondering if you give an example of seeing someone transform over time with DBT skills.
Um, I mean, it's hard to say just one person, but people come in, and usually there's an issue with what they call emotion dysregulation. So their emotions are a little out of whack. Maybe there's higher levels of really painful emotions. And when your emotions are out of control, it affects all different areas of your life, right? So it could affect your behavior, and you can engage in desperate behaviors just to try to feel better, right? So we have people who self-injure. In the hospital, we have people who swallow foreign objects. They call it FBI, not like the, the usual FBI, foreign body ingestion, people with eating disorders, substance abuse. So it's just a desperate attempt to get in control of their emotions, right? Other part of the dysregulation that people come in with, impulsivity, even that translates into aggression a lot of times in an inpatient setting, relationship problems, problems with fragmentation of themselves, feeling empty inside, things like that. So people come in with stuff like that, and they often come in very desperate. And unfortunately with DBT, there's often a waiting list, a long waiting list, and it's very expensive. I did private practice DBT work for a few years, between like 2012 and 2015. And it was sad because people paid a fortune for it. Insurance didn't always cover it. And it took forever to get in. And so meanwhile, people are suffering, they're suicidal while waiting to get in. So, they transform from that to slowly like starting to get it, starting to put the skills together, starting to like, get the buzzwords of DBT going. Oh yeah, and I'll be mindful. I tried this skill, I tried that skill, and they feel a sense of mastery because they're starting to finally put something together, right?
Yes.
And you understand it as a therapist and you show them you understand their issue specifically, they feel so much more validated, so there's a balance of acceptance and change, validation and change. So just step by step, and of course you always have to deal with what they call like cycling from pre-treatment to treatment. So motivation fluctuates, sometimes part of you wants to get better, part of you scared to get better, so we have to work with that as well. You can't just assume it's a straight line or that you're always in the mood. Sometimes skills are really hard, it's so much easier to go back to the usual, right? So you gotta work with people, help them, but it's exciting because you see the progress. People are willing to give it a try.
Yes, I could see you're really in tune with the process itself.
Yeah.
And you've witnessed people who've, as you said, who are hardened, and they really over time they marinate the skills, and you could really.
And what's
see the
sad
change.
is sometimes people, they come from other therapies that don't teach skills, maybe something more psychodynamic or supportive in nature, and they come in with a mindset like, I'm not sure if therapy really can help me. I've tried this before. You show me what you could do. But sometimes it gives them hope because you're offering something different. So that's always a good thing too.
Yeah, provides a lot of hope.
Right.
Yes. So when it comes to, and just to let you know, I also do editing too. So don't.
No problem.
Yeah. So. Okay, so for you, what are some skills that really stand out to you?
I'll have to say, after doing this for a while, there's like pretty much, if you go through all the skills in order and you don't waste too much time in between, it takes sometimes almost a year to get through all the skills, right? There's a lot of skills and so I find though with some people, like certain skills kind of rise to the top. So if you've been through the whole year, you have some favorites, you don't always use all of them equally. Over time, different ones might pop out for you depending on your life circumstance and where you are. And, but oftentimes people really like radical acceptance. They like validation. Mindfulness is kind of a split. Some people are just, mindfulness doesn't work for me and they kind of give up on it prematurely. Other people love mindfulness and they think it's really helpful. Sometimes people really like distract with accepts, or rather distract with A, because they like activities, but don't always do the full acronym and all the other richness of that skill. People like some of the interpersonal stuff. Tip people really like, especially with the ICE. Inpatient, it's a little harder to do that, but people in the community really like tip. That's one of their go-tos. But you know what? But sometimes we don't emphasize enough some of the lesser used skills because there's some good nuggets in there as well. So, yes. But also like people, it's important to like give it a chance even if you've done it before, because different groups are different. People in it make it a different experience. A different leader can make it a different experience. And I tell people, listen, if I could go through this for almost 20 years and still learn something new, then you have no excuse, okay? You can't tell me I've done it already, because that basically means I have it cognitively, but I don't have it here. I didn't internalize it. I haven't had to apply it yet. So I'd rather you do more with less. Stick with the skills but apply them better, apply them in more situations than to be like, oh, I already did it, right? Don't give up too fast. So I
Yeah,
encourage.
it really takes time to let it marinate. And
Right.
that's true what you said, Peace. I teach workshops, and sometimes like I reteach a workshop, and even I learn something new from
Right.
it.
It's kind of like if you watch a movie you've already watched 10 times, you still see something different on the 11th time.
Yes,
Detail you missed or something. So, always look for something new with a beginner's mind, as they say, right?
absolutely.
I got it already, right? If you didn't get DBT, and you think DBT offers a lot. So if you say DBT is not helping you, you're missing out. So,
Is there an order to DBT? So you mentioned there's an order, and that takes kind of like a year to go through.
There's different modules.
Mhm.
Mindfulness module, which is the shortest one. And basically, they do call it core mindfulness skills. So they give you just the bare minimum so you can start practicing mindfulness. But if you're doing the groups the proper way, every group should begin with a mindfulness, and clients should be encouraged to apply mindfulness on a regular basis anyway, right? There's distress tolerance skills, which help you deal with stress more effectively, distress, right? Emotion regulation skills, which help you to manage your emotions more effectively. Interpersonal effectiveness skills, which help you deal with relationships better. And middle path skills. Now, middle path skills in the newest module are kind of like clumped together with interpersonal. And they were originally designed for adolescents. I remember when they first designed and they weren't even published yet. When I was at Hillside and Schneider's, we got like the scrap copy from Alec Miller up in the Bronx. And we were like looking at that. And it was mostly for adolescents and their parents, right? So you could kind of bridge the dialectic between adolescents and their parents and stuff like that. But, then it started to become like, well, everybody could benefit from dialectics, right? I mean, it's DBT. So it was fleshed out a little bit more. So now it's kind of combined with interpersonal effectiveness. But everywhere I've worked, they've always kind of treated it like a separate module. So a lot of people tell you there's 4 modules, but in my personal experience, they've treated it like a 5th because it's just that important, right? To get that concept. Just to put it out there, right? One of the things they talk about in DBT is that unlike earlier therapies, such as psychodynamic therapies, it's not like I'm the therapist over here and you're the patient over there, and I'm in one world and you're in another, right? It's kind of like we're both living in the same universe and we're both working together, right? Yes. And the skills that are helpful for you are the same skills that are helpful for me. So as therapists, you also need to practice the skills yourself and kind of get how they work so you could better convey them to the clients, right?
Yes.
So have practiced all the skills from one time to another. I mean, some a little bit more regularly. I feel like mindfulness pervades my life and I can't shut it off because it's just something I've been doing. There's always an opportunity to be mindful. And I think once you have that awareness, it gives you so much more power. So I would say mindfulness, super important. But obviously there's so many other things, that could be applied as well.
Mm-hmm. How does mindfulness give you the power?
So it just gets you to step back and pause before you do something impulsive. So even if you're in a conversation, I mean, not that you have to be an impulsive person to do this, but like ever feel like you would just want to jump in and say something or jump in and get what you want out there before the other person finished, right? Even in that moment, just being mindful helps you to just breathe and step back and wait and be patient, So even little things like that could help an interaction go smoother. Or you wish that's boring you or that's making you anxious. If you just stop and breathe and pay attention to your breath and pause for a minute and just get back in the moment instead of, oh my God, what's this person saying? And I got to get out of here. It just makes the moment better, right? So you got to practice it in a formal practice, but then take it off the cushion, so to speak, into your everyday life. It just like makes your life so much more in your control rather than just like happening to you,
Yeah. And the great thing about mindfulness is that it's built over time. So it becomes, it could feel like it's easier to access overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I like about mindfulness, like even with the example of like someone blurring something out, you can even be mindful of that process of when that's happening. when you have when you're expressing that behavior and being able to observe that non-judgmentally, just being curious about it.
Like it's like the urge surfing skill, like just observing the urge to do it, is a great step. Sometimes you first do it, realize it after the fact, but then eventually you notice it before, and now you have the choice.
Yes.
It just happens. You now have a choice, and that's really important. Right. So instead of feeling totally out of control in your life, these are like little ways to feel in control that are pretty useful,
Great. Yes. And so I saw this video you've made on basically different ways that kind of prevent us from tapping into that lighter sense of flexibility of the mind. And these ways are like through bitterness, and also through like bitterness, cynicism, and
from Radically Open DBT.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought it was interesting, and the thing is, I'm not like by nature a cynical person, but like I decided to take a look at it, right? and you start to ask those questions, and then I was able to tap into like a side of myself that was cynical in a way. So I was like, wait, I guess like when you start to talk about like in politics, and I like the whole entire process, because it's a lot of Socratic questioning and taking you through different definitions. So it's like I could really identify with that, and I could feel that side of me really come out, and then you're getting me to like ask these questions to myself, how I can find ways to have a more flexible view. Like first validate that side, and then seeing like what's a way you could challenge it.
Yeah, I mean, I discovered Radically Open DBT fairly recently. I mean, I'm not as well versed in it as original DBT, but the one thing that does string throughout is that they call it self-inquiry. They spell it with an E, like the Inquirer, but they call it inquiry with an I, right? But it fits into the acronyms with an E, so they have an E. So anyway, but it's through a lot of the skills, and basically it they even call it a how skill. They add it onto their own how skills. So it's kind of like it gets you to go deeper, and of just accepting the problem or distracting from the problem or trying to make yourself feel better. You kind of like say, that's interesting. And with curiosity, you kind of ask yourself some questions about what's going on here, and it gets you to like reflect a little more and develop a little more awareness and insight. And it's really useful. That's one of the great add-ons from Radically Open DBT. So I definitely would check that out because it adds a lot. It really does,
Yes. So there's such a field. There's like field like where there's so much potential to learn more and more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff about cynicism and bitterness, like regular DBT doesn't touch that at all, but Radically Open DBT does. And it's like, oh, wow, I guess I am a little cynical, right? You said, sometimes you don't even realize it.
And then there's this one about like you, or no, not I, you, but I, it, and I, thou.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a DBT thing?
No, it's from Martin Buber. He's like a philosopher. Honest, like some of my non-DBT videos were just from groups that I did at work, because we had a smart board and I would do PowerPoints and we talk about in groups. And once I did the DBT videos, I was like, maybe I can make some of those into videos. So then it became, and that was just an afterthought, to be honest. I had that video, and for some reason, like it's my most popular video, and I have no idea why. I don't know how the algorithm works out for everyone who's watching it, but it was kind of just one of a bunch of other things I put up, but it's basically like the it is relating to people like their need gratifying objects or need frustrating objects. Like, this is what you could do for me. And hey, you screwed me over. Why didn't you do this for me? How dare you? It's just about the transaction, whereas an I-thou relationship is like my deeper self connecting with your deeper self. And I'm seeing you as a whole person and relating to you from me being a whole person, right? Which is the idea, right? So in a secure relationship, a secure attachment, we have two whole people coming together, not two parts trying to be a whole.
Yes.
Right? So it's kind of like you have to be self-aware mindfully first to become the thou yourself, to become a whole me, so that I could relate to you as a whole you. And I know you're a whole you until I realize what it feels like to be a whole me, so that's the I thou in a way,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really fascinating stuff, and it's true that I think before forming that connection, then people kind of have a projection of each other, like they kind of see people like
Right.
very much a certain kind of way.
Right, exactly, right. So it's not just like this part view I have of somebody. Like I'm really stepping back. And with self-inquiry, I could help do that, putting it all together, right? Be like, is there more to the story? Like, what's the other reasons why this person could be reacting this way or feeling this way, right? So if
Yes.
my mind start to go deeper beneath the iceberg, so to speak, into the other person, I could see them as more of a whole person. It's not just like you're someone that's triggering me.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. This is. Yeah. This watching your videos has been wonderful. So the thing is, like when I'm watching the videos, I think like for instance, like with the Dear Man video, what Jennifer does is kind of take you through one skill one at a time, and also each one there's example provided for that, and then like how can you apply that to yourself.
Mhm.
So I thought that was pretty neat.
Right. You know what? Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it helps just to break it down, because
Mhm.
if it's just an abstract concept, it may be like, yeah, that sounds good, but I have no idea how this could apply to my life. And obviously, I can't hit on all the examples or like interact with people through YouTube to help people see, but
Mhm.
I try to make it as basic as I can so people could take away from it and feel like they could use it, you know.
Mhm.
So that's the most important part. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Great. Well, Jennifer, it's wonderful to have you on my
Thanks so
show.
much.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I'm gonna have Jennifer's YouTube channel in the description. I also have it up above here too.
Thanks so
Um,
much.